Hey everyone, I'm here joined by Philosopher. We're going to go over kind of the reaction to the character progression and tech issues, and I think I want to get a new player perspective of some of the bottlenecks that they've hit and how to overcome, and more importantly, cough cough, pay to overcome, and just kind of talk about it is what it is. I mean, I think being able to progress your roster in that specific way is really invaluable. Although I'm sure we can put a price on it if we asked. But let's go into it really quickly. So quick summation from the character progression tech issues. What did you think about the post?
I was pretty happy with it, and I know some people were disappointed. I think people maybe were expecting too much, but I think if you actually break it down line by line, paragraph by paragraph, almost everything is positive. It may not have done everything you wanted, but there's a lot of great stuff there.
So I think that's the problem is I definitely feel like it's all positive in the right direction, but I don't know if it addressed all of the feedback, and we'll get into that in a minute here. So let's take a look at the number one issue here: character progression training modules. Now, I gotta imagine that at your level of the game that you're buying training modules, or have you been able to kind of keep up with the pace on that?
Well, what I do is I buy power cores, and I usually buy them in the $100 size, so you get the better deal. And then
Yeah.
I do the 50 and 100 core refreshes on energy every day, which really helps a lot. I'm also usually high in arena, so I can use those kingpin orbs. So I have a stash of training of orbs that I've gotten, and I actually don't really dip into those very rarely. When I was in DD4, I was dipping into them, but not on the.
What I will say is that the average player probably doesn't have a chance to use a Kingpin Orb. They're probably still on an arena farm as characters are being released at the arena store. The most recent one was Swarm. So that's probably something that they're still farming, considering the viability of Swarm now on War Defense. So training modules, I get it. It looks like it's about an extra character from 0 to 73. So is it going to be enough for 800K? We have to take a look at what we're gaining per day based on energy expenditures. So I know that we're going to be breaking that down. We're going to go through the training modules. We're going to take a look at, what you're getting when you're spending a certain core amount and you're coring for energy. So we'll give you guys a baseline to get an idea of what you're actually getting versus what you're using. Orange gear. So I got to imagine, again, orange gear, same thing. Are you not having a problem, or have you just been conservative in how you're spending it from what you earn from DD2, DD3, and DD4?
Yeah, I've been like hyper conservative efficient. So for DD2 and DD3 and DD4, I kept all of those rewards and used them to invest in my teams for the next Dark Dimension. And then since DD4, I really have been very, very careful about bringing up characters. And I also do nothing with my energy every day with all those 50 and 100 core refreshes, but farm orange gear. So for me, this devalues my massive stockpile of orange gear, which I'm fine with. It's better for the game. But there's no question that orange gear is the number one severe limitation in the game, and for many players, they just don't have a hope of progressing their roster past a certain point without running into massive bottlenecks.
All right, so what have you bought as far as orange gear? Only the specific uniques like cough cough gravitonium?
Yes, exactly right. And I've also, particularly when I was racing through DD4, I was buying the unique offers for the G15 uniques, as well as spending cores to refresh the store and all that.
Have you found that your purple gear, when a new character comes up, that you're behind a little bit, or have you been able to maintain that at all?
Well, they've made those offers cheap, first of all, and they've also loosened it up quite a bit, the purple gear, I find. So, those you can get now. It used to be getting whatever, the paying 10 cents a piece or whatever for the purple gear used to be a rare offer, and now they offer that like every other week, right?
Yeah, so I guess that there's offers, but that's the thing is, the blitz orbs. I guess at a certain point you're going to wind up flush with purple gear, but I don't think we're at that level yet. I think even ABCs. Now I know for me, I'm probably flush with ABCs. But that's because I used to buy them regularly from the shop. I used to spend at least one offer a day from the shop, and I used to do the same thing with the 240K SBC offers, but I found that it was just too costly from the regards as I was trying to buy more G15 gear. So I think a lot of those price changes and adjustments were needed because I think it It doesn't allow people to transition if they make mistakes, and we'll talk about that either in this video or upcoming about kind of, the value of choosing characters for the Doom raid, because you and I might have different versions of the Doom raid, which I really want to touch base on going down the road. So skilled military. Now you invested in this team, and you were kind of like, well, give me your feedback.
Yeah, this was the first big mistake I've made in the game. It's really, in terms of an investment, or maybe the second one after I was my beginner team. I have to say this team has been a real disappointment. Even on a punch down in war, on a team that was supposed to be a counter, easy a target. This was supposed to be a hard counter. It just did not work. I've been pretty disappointed, and I'll tell you, ever since I've been even more cautious about investing in new teams. I mean, for Shadowlands, I was waiting to see how you did, and your video was very helpful because I needed something like that to make me feel comfortable investing in that team.
Well, and just to be careful, Shadowlands is a war offense team. I'm not sure how much they provide outside of that. I think White Tiger and Moon Knight are probably extremely viable characters on their teams, but I think I'm going to call them literally X-Force 2.0 without knowing that they unlock a legendary down the road or whatnot. They're not going to unlock like Doc Ock. So while they are X-Force 2.0 and beat a ton of war defense teams, including Doom, that's something that we want to go over down the road. Is White Tiger has so many pieces in her arsenal that she may potentially be one of the best characters that have ever entered the game.
Wow, that's a big statement right there, RemanX. That's huge.
From the perspective of what she can provide, especially in war, she is very unique, and we'll go over that because I'm probably going to do an in-depth review about her once I uncover a lot of her. So skill military changes. We don't know the specifics. We do know they're going to be unlocking a specific challenge to help us get more gear down the road, or more specifically, hopefully fixing these resources and that we've invested in a team that has been performing. So I know that they're going to be changing. That's a big deal because I really feel like they were compared to Wakanda 2.0, and that, in the regard that they just weren't performing as advertised. And so this is kind of an admission that they need to go back and rework it. And I think that's a big deal. And now technical issues, I think that's something that, I think it's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, it's a constant problem in the game. I know that new players who are using Thor have a lot, like who are making Wave 1 their main team, have asked me questions about what to set the ISO so they don't get as much of the bug. And that's got to be frustrating when you're a new player. You don't have a lot of resources, and your energy, you have a little bit of energy and you have to waste it due to a bug. So I get that. It's frustrating. I appreciate that sometimes I'm not a programmer. It can be hard to find these bugs, but it's something people should be, especially if they're paying money in this game, they should get a product that works.
Yeah, so Thor's hammer throwing, and then buffs not expiring when intended. We've seen this. This has been a frustration. So basically the idea is when you look at a character's UI, their overhead, what their buffs are, they're not showing that their expiration, they're not even at a 0. Sometimes they're just being carried over. So it's definitely going to be looked at. I think it's definitely something that could be a problem. So let's talk about this. So there's an exploit, and I don't really want to go into a lot of details, but sure. I understand why they haven't talked about it, and I think it's a big deal that they are.
I agree with that. I have to say that they really should be giving Arena a real hard look in the first place. It's a game mode that rewards you beating your opponent with 3 seconds left on the clock versus 2 seconds versus 4 seconds. I mean, that really is not a measure of skill, and there really should be a better way of doing Arena. I know other games like Galaxies or Heroes has a better system. So disappointed that we're not having a bit broader Arena rework. I mean, another thing here is they didn't really address gold as a bottleneck in this post. So definitely,
well,
they could do more.
I'm going to talk about gold in a minute. And so the Black Panther passive, some of the changes they made, basically trying to fix some of the ISO issues, like getting the double benefit from it. And then they also clarify the costume. And so they answer this in a very political way. And I think it's important to take it that right now in the initial set of stuff, I don't think they're putting stats on them, but I think there could be down the road, and a good example might be something like Spider-Man Future Foundation, where a costume like that might make them Fantastic Four, which is kind of cool in that it doesn't provide, a crazy amount of change, but I don't, and that's hypothetical. But what I'm saying to you is, it looks like there are would enhance the character's balance or abilities. The answer to that is no. Costumes will now have a direct mechanical advantage. There is a possibility that in the future, costumes could unlock additional perks, but there are presently no plans for them to do so. So they kind of allowed themselves some wiggle room, and I feel like people are like, yeah, like they also said there's no plans for Red Stars to, to be gated original or additional content, and now we all know that Red Stars are, gated original content. But again, it had to be. That was part of the power creep. So stay tuned. I'm gonna say that I believe that these are going to be mostly cosmetic and predominantly cosmetic. Probably apply some additional animations, knowing what the art team can do and what they work on, and looking at the passion that the art team does have for this game. I hope it's something that they go into. And so the summary is they're always welcoming feedback, and I know that people may not realize that they're actually talking to us. And I talked about this earlier, and I don't know if you know this, but they're doing pretty well. Despite the dissatisfaction with the game, this company is near record-breaking earnings, it looks like, and so are, specifically this game. So I think it's hard for me to say that they have a reason to be at the table with us, yet here they are communicating. And I hate to have that positive spin on it, but, and again, I understand the frustration by the community, because I'm going to go over some of the things that are definitely missing and highlight what I think should be there. But let's go ahead from you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I mentioned is a bottleneck is gold, and for me, that's a bigger bottleneck that I pay my way through very directly in a way that players can't. I think that's a problem. One thing that I think is a problem in this game, RemanX, for newer players is just the mountain to climb to catch up gets higher and higher and higher as they continue to release more characters. And I appreciate that new players don't have to build every character, but of course the developers are constantly reworking the old characters and making it so that eventually you're going to want to, right? So I think, and they're asking for wider rosters now for raids.
Bingo.
Wider rosters for the Greeks. It used to be when I was coming up, earlier on, I had one raid team, one arena team. New players now are really having trouble because the mountain is too high to climb. And so I really think that, going forward, there needs to be better catch-up mechanics for newer players.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. So gold is one of those things where people are always going to say, oh, it's bad. But, and then there's going to be the data analysts that are like, no, you're just not using your gold right. And so the problem you have is it's hard for people to accept that gold is a product of wide rosters, right? The wider you go, which you're right, they're definitely gearing us up to go wider. And so I think it's going to be important to kind of identify characters that are Doom raid viable. And I think I'm really frustrated by skill, because I really haven't think I've locked that down yet. I'm working diligently on trying to make a skill character, team that's going to help you punch through the skill nodes with less than 4 attempts on the Doom boss regularly, right? Sometimes you get lucky, but it seems like they definitely built that, around the challenge. But here is the biggest problem, and I don't think people are talking about this enough. And so you had to pay to overcome this. But when you start the game, there really is little reason for you to do anything before U6. And so a lot of the resources like blue gear, blue T4 ability mats, and all this stuff was never added to the next tier of raids. And I know they're gonna rework the raid rewards for all that, the milestones. But I think the big problem we have is just that there is no clear path. There is no reason that once you start building a roster that you should have to go back and do like an Ultimus 5 or an Ultimus 6 to get better gear. That's something they've missed. They've really kind of missed that bridge. And
that's a great point. RemanX, because there are new player alliances that will run U6.5 a certain number of days a week just to get blue gear for their members because U7 doesn't provide it.
Yeah, so it is a huge miss that basically, and it's a catch-up mechanic. It's basically when you join the game, whether, and more importantly, it's friendly even to the free-to-play players, which is important to say, is at some point, if you're gating everything towards the end game, and I use that analogy with WoW and Burning Crusade, or even vanilla WoW, where we're less than 0.3% of the population were doing the end game Nax or doing
Right.
Muru before it got nerfed. And so, if you're not familiar with those terms, I'm old. I apologize. And so, that's gaming
So
history
am
for you.
I.
That's gaming
So
history
am
for
I.
you. Yeah. We share a little bit of common history here, and this is why Philosopher and I'm talking about it. But that is realistically, when I have conversations, because I do often about what the new players need to progress in this game, and I try to give direction that just makes sense, because I do know, as a new player once myself in the game, watching other people streaming and giving and taking advice before I decided to kind of crack in on this game, I was really good about balancing my resources and all of that before I threw my wallet at the problem. And a lot of that had to do with, like, did I trust the company? And so I think for a lot of reasons, people are still losing trust. And I feel like red stars were missed here. Now, I think you don't have a problem with red stars, but I think the majority of the community does.
My take on Red Stars, as somebody who's played the game more, started more recently, is that they actually help the very new players, because a new player who gets a 4 red star or 3 red star early on the right character, or can buy them up, can actually gain a lot of power for the old content. So it's actually kind of a nice thing. My Magneto would do very well in U6 because I had 5 red stars on him,
Yeah.
luckily. So back when I was rating U6, so I think it can help there. I think the issue is just at the high end. People, obviously there's a huge spending advantage, and then also it's an RNG component. That's why I do like ISO better. I do like the fact that I think ISO is going to replace red stars. I think blue ISO will be the new red stars, and red stars are going to slowly get loosened by the developers. That's my prediction.
Well, I hope you're right, but it doesn't seem like that's the indication. It seems like it's more of like Ultron Red, because nobody asked for the Ultron Red stars. But again, Ultron coming back into relevance is kind of a big deal. Well, Philosopher, I hope we can take some more of the new player experiences. Remember, guys, if you guys are part of the Voltage Sauce community, I'm going to add a Discord. They're a great new player community. You can talk to Philosopher Voltage Sauce and get some feedback in there. I really like sending you guys there, because there's just a lot of people with shared experiences that you guys can talk to. And more importantly, if you guys have some feedback on maybe things that we didn't address here, I am trying to get some of this basically visible and brought up so that we can understand that. I really feel like, looking at the new player experience, which I do a ton. If you guys look at my Twitter, you guys will see that I do a ton of that in games, because I'm always conscious of that. Because I really think about it as, like, if I love a game, I want to recommend it to my friends. What does a new player experience look like? And so this is one of those games where I feel like it's a big miss from where a player starts to where they can end up over time. I feel like the bridge just isn't there, and I need your help building it. All right, Philosopher, anything else you want to end with?
Well, I'll just say this. If you think that this game, should be better for new players, do your part if you're an experienced player, and try to help new players, not just with what worked for you a couple of years ago, but try to learn and help them with their problems now with the characters that are more recent in the game.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. The community here is, really second to none, but help us figure out what the new players should be working on, and help them help build that bridge. But it shouldn't solely be on us. That's really a developer's job, is to kind of put the guidance into a game so that people just don't get lost. If you look at other games, there's like a little mini roadmap, so they can kind of get to the legendaries and where they are. So it's kind of a miss here.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%.
All right, well, talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Philosopher. Tell them where to find you.
Absolutely. You can find me on my Discord. You can find me on my Twitch stream, and you can find me on my YouTube account.
And you guys are going to see all those links down below, including the Voltage Sauce server. So we will check you out. Thank you, Philosopher, again for all your feedback. And remember, I do things so you don't have to. And Philosopher does it faster in less time. We'll check you soon.